How this grant conversations have been going.
We are going to be starting promptly at 9 a.m. That's in 3 minutes. So if you wanted to get one more cup of coffee, one more Danish, anything else before we start, please do it now because our live stream starts promptly at 9.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. Yeah. Comment recently that the
Good morning. It's a beautiful morning to be gathered here in the common room. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kristen Champa, and I serve as the Vice President for Advancement at CTS. And over the past 5.5 years, I've learned that this is a sacred space, a space that has served as a place for gathering, fellowship, discussion, and inquiry for decades. Today's occasion for gathering is a deeply significant one for our community, not only as we look ahead to commencement and to celebrate the accomplishments of our graduating students, but as we come together at the culmination of our 100th anniversary celebration. Over the past year, we've taken time to reflect on the bold and visionary founding of this institution. 100 years ago, the School of Religion at Butler University, what would become Christian Theological Seminary, was established with a profound and progressive commitment to make theological education accessible to all on an equal basis. And that founding vision has continued to guide and inspire us across the decades. Throughout this century of ministry and scholarship, CTS has been blessed by a vibrant and faithful community. Students, faculty, staff, trustees, benefactors, advisors, and friends who shared dedication and sustained and advanced our mission. It's a true pleasure to be able to welcome all who are in this room and to greet the alumni and the extended CTS family joining us via live stream for this special State of the Seminary address. Following the address, for those of you who are in the room, we will have time for a brief Q&A, so I encourage you to take notes. And if you have any questions or any thoughts that you wish to share at the end of Dr. Mellott's speech. But at this time, it is my distinct privilege to introduce President of Christian Theological Seminary, Dr. David Mellott.
Good morning, friends of God. Good morning. It's so wonderful to see you here. For those of you who are present here in the room, or if you're joining us in the live stream, it's wonderful to be together, and I'm so grateful for your presence. How are things at CTS? This is the question that I get every day from alumni, trustees, friends of CTS, and colleagues in the world of higher education. These days, I find myself hesitating before I answer, because the answer is not simple or short, nor should it be. My first response is that Christian Theological Seminary is in a strong position, very strong. We are growing, we are more engaged, and we are more connected. Our student body is growing. We are reversing the downward trend in enrollment thanks to a united effort across the faculty, staff, and alumni to implement a more segmented approach to recruiting the next generation of pastors, clinicians, educators, chaplains, and community leaders. Where we find potential clinicians is not the same place where we find potential pastors. So we are creating different strategies. We're also graduating gifted and well-trained people who are getting hired and appointed working in their field. This year, we will graduate 32 people who have completed a certificate, a master's degree, or a doctoral degree. And a few have completed 2 degrees. The seminary is more engaged with the local community. For the past 2 years, CTS has been working with Dant Advocacy to track important bills being considered in the Indiana State House so that we can support, oppose, or correct bills that we believe affect the well-being of people in the state of Indiana, especially people who are already socially vulnerable. We pay particular attention to the ways in which religion is used to support public policy and the ways in which bills might enshrine religious perspectives in destructive ways. For example, CTS has been vocal about opposing the appointment of chaplains as school counselors. While there is a great need for more student counselors, hiring chaplains to fill those positions is simply a covert way of inserting unchecked religious influence into our schools. CTS is also an active participant in efforts to unite the city, local foundations, nonprofit organizations, and communities of faith to work together to end chronic homelessness in the city of Indianapolis. The proven approach we are pursuing together will move those who are currently without a home or shelter directly into long-term housing, supported by wraparound services. In conjunction with these efforts, we have successfully worked together to defeat the attempts by Indiana lawmakers to criminalize homelessness. Our counseling center continues to grow. We currently have a record number of interns and residents providing care at the center, and this increase in clinicians has allowed us to work more closely with other institutions that can direct referrals to the center. Over the past year, we have been meeting with our colleagues at IU Health, which has resulted in our counseling center being added to their referral list. Given the hundreds, yes, you heard me correct, hundreds of people that IU cannot serve each month, this referral pathway has significant potential. In addition to this relationship, we are pursuing other opportunities that will help us serve Indiana even better, while providing our interns and residents with excellent experience. And the seminary is more connected in every way. During the 100th anniversary year, we welcomed more people to campus than at any time in the last decade. CTS has made more new friends this past year, resulting in more new donors who are supporting our work. We are more connected to our alumni who are returning to CTS events, often after keeping distant for an extended period. And through the addition of innovative programs like the compelling preaching initiative and the reimagining of other programs like the new webinar versions of our Life in Common series and Skills for Flourishing Congregations, we are connecting with more people around the country. These are just a few illustrations of how the state of CTS is strong. When I stand back and see the tremendous good that CTS has shared with the world this year and the last 100 years, I see CTS redefining what a seminary can be. There are few seminaries seeking to achieve the impact that CTS is having on the church and the wider community. For the last 100 years, God has been inviting Christian Theological Seminary to imagine with her how a seminary could be, how a world could be. A world where everyone can receive a theological education. Not just men, not just white men, or just straight white men, or just straight white American men. A world where Christian ministers are educated to give public witness to the teachings of Jesus without being anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, racist, sexist, heterosexist, or xenophobic. A world where pursuing a degree in theology or a degree in counseling does not require life-crushing debt. A world where a person's spiritual health and well-being includes their mental health. A world where seminaries convene leaders and activists across disciplines and religious affiliations to bring God's love, justice, and life-affirming message to our neighborhoods and communities. A world where a seminary professor appears not only in the classroom, but also in the State House, demanding justice for people who are housing insecure, at the city-county building protesting against gun violence, or on the street exploring the relationship between poverty and the teachings of Jesus. CTS has been creatively imagining with God and transforming the world. We have not simply thought about alternative realities. CTS has been bringing those alternative realities to life. How are things at CTS? The state of the seminary itself is very strong. But we are clear-eyed about our context. And our context is alarming. There are very real threats to our work and our institution, and these threats demand our attention. While God, CTS, and other friends of God have been busy imagining, creating, and building alternative realities, the powers and principalities have been resisting God's imaginative and life-affirming vision for the world. We cannot we cannot be naive. These forces will continually construct new ways to undermine God's vision and for transforming the world. Many of our elected officials at every level are pursuing legislation that is simply cruel. Human rights, hard-won rights in this country are being dismantled and diminished. Legislators are seeking to erase the history of our country when it comes to race, religion, sexuality, and gender, rather than seeking to heal the wounds and righting the wrongs. In fact, the President issued an executive order that seeks to erase the truth about human biology, stating that there are only two sexes. God, however, does not take orders from human powers. One to 2% of all people are born intersex. And the one in whom there is no longer male and female has no allegiance to outmoded gender binaries. The reality is that elected state and federal officials are taking actions that are threatening the voice and viability of higher education. And these threats have the potential to impact Christian Theological Seminary as well. Among the potential threats are intimidation of people on campus by immigration officials, imposition of an endowment tax, and challenges to our anti-oppression and anti-discrimination work, which could include challenging our ability to offer student loans. Because we have been engaging in enterprise risk management for the past 2 years, we know that we can only monitor some threats, some we can mitigate, and others need a strategic response should they come to pass. I and the other members of senior leadership are paying close attention to what is happening and working on the appropriate approach to these potential threats. Whether these materialize at CTS or not, they are already happening in other places across our country. The truth is that the values of CTS and our understandings of the teachings of Jesus are under attack, often by people who want to link Christianity with political power. I believe our current context demands that we Christians and Christianity re-examine our relationship with empire. As you may know, Christians have a very troubling history with empire, with governments, which goes back to the early days of our religion. In the 4th century, Constantine legalized Christianity and promoted religious tolerance through the Edict of Milan. Not long after, the Roman Empire officially adopted Christianity as its state religion. Ever since, Christians have had a questionable relationship with empire and with political power. Christians actually began benefiting from being officially acceptable. Christians began having greater safety and access to social power. Important buildings were repurposed as churches. Being Christian actually became fashionable, which allowed the movement to grow. At the same time, the empire demanded a uniformity of doctrine within Christianity, which was not present at its origins. The emperors thought diversity of belief created fragmentation among the people, which made it harder to control them. Thus, diversity and inclusion gave way to conformity and gatekeeping. Serving the commands of Jesus became secondary to serving the needs of the empire. This shift made many of our Christian elders uneasy. They decided to separate from the empire so that they could pursue their search for God and their desire to serve God. They moved to the desert where communities sprung up, often around a single or small group of teachers whom we now call the desert mothers and fathers. These monks lived in community. Actually, living alone, despite what people think, living alone was rarely permitted, because the point wasn't to abandon a common life, but to live a life that was free from the demands and temptations of the empire. Empire living cultivated a life focused upon what the empire valued, which was not the teachings of Jesus. Empire focused on worldly success, greed, privilege, control, and power, with little concern about the consequences. Life in the desert provided the space to pursue life with God, free from those distractions. You and I, however, we live in the long shadow of our own empire. And while we are not likely to run off to the desert and create a monastic community, we can learn from those desert monks and their communities. What they knew was that benefiting from government approval increased the likelihood that they would abandon their values and their commitments. They knew that their pursuit of life with God and for God was at stake. As a Christian institution in higher education, the truth is we benefit from our relationship with the government. We have nonprofit status. We do not pay taxes on property. We have access to lower interest loans for our students through our Title IV. Our ordained clergy can deploy part of their salary toward housing expenses. What our government is doing is leveraging these benefits against our schools. Now, leveraging benefits is not necessarily problematic unless the cost of receiving those benefits involves compromising one's commitments. And in our case, undermining what we believe to be the core teachings of Jesus, whose life and values centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion. The devastating truth is that we live in a country where the government is hungry for our attention and our compliance. Unfortunately, the church has too often allowed, if not chosen, empire culture, empire living, and empire politics. In doing so, we have endangered our commitments to the way of Jesus and the trust that God has placed in us to care for the earth and for one another. Just think about it. As our country, we are taking actions that hasten climate change and environmental disaster, that endanger the safety and well-being of LGBTQ people, that withdraw our support for countries in desperate need of our aid. Furthermore, as a country, we are taking actions that actually foster racial bias and discrimination, that put women and their health in jeopardy, that make our country inhospitable to immigrants and people seeking asylum. As followers of Jesus, I believe we Christians have some soul searching to do. In the spirit of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, we might ask ourselves, are we willing to pay the cost of being Christian? I realize that the benefits we receive from the government provide important support for our students, our mission, and our entire institution. But we must be clear about our ultimate loyalty. It belongs to the teachings of Jesus. Teachings that affirm God-given human dignity for everyone, that demand justice for all, that promote healing and wholeness throughout creation. Despite the initiatives by our governments to dismantle and undermine the anti-oppression movements in our country and institutions, they cannot stop these movements. Friends, we will not stop moving forward. Our academic disciplines and institutions are not yet where they need to be when it comes to decentering whiteness, straightness, or maleness. But we have made some progress. Looking at the last 100 years at CTS, you can see that we are moving in the right direction. At CTS, we are lifting up Black preaching and ministry as a focus for academic study. We are lifting up the study of human sexuality and gender as a requirement for the Master of Divinity degree. We are requiring students to wrestle with the ways in which Christianity has been both an instrument of liberation and an instrument of oppression. Furthermore, we are teaching our counseling students to be prepared to serve more fully Black, brown, and LGBTQ communities through their clinical work. Friends of God, the powers and principalities may want to silence us, but we are just getting started. God is not done with us yet. God is not done with CTS yet. God has never stopped creating, never stopped seeking human liberation, and nor can we. We must use everything at our disposal to serve God's transformation of the world. To that end, we must deepen our commitment to anti-oppression living and thinking, both inside and outside the church. We must establish more collaborations with people and organizations who share our values. We must learn and teach new skills, innovative ideas, and creative approaches to Christian community. And we must create more opportunities to bring people together and support the flourishing of God's people and the world entrusted to us. How are things at CTS? We are strong. We are clear-eyed regarding the alarming context in which we live, and we are just getting started. I believe in CTS, in our mission, in our people, and in our potential. As CTS enters its next century of life, we have much to honor and celebrate. We are indeed grateful to God for keeping guard over CTS, and we ask for God's continual keeping. We also recommit ourselves to love God and to love what God loves, her world, its people, and their ongoing creation and transformation. May God continue to bless Christian Theological Seminary. Thank you. Before we do the Q&A, I do have just two other things I want to add, that how much I am grateful for the ways in which our faculty, staff, trustees, and alumni have worked together to bring the seminary to this place. Just this year alone, we have accomplished remarkable things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been an exciting anniversary year, which we will conclude with an extra special commencement service that you don't want to miss. And I want to also ask those who served on the anniversary committee, Can you rise where you are so we can thank you for all of your great work? Stand up. The other thing is that indeed our seminary is in a strong position. The challenge is that our income is not always keeping up with our growth. So I ask you to think about how you can help us make new friends, more friends for the seminary. One thing we know, when people learn about what is happening at CTS, they want to get involved. So thank you for being ambassadors and helping introduce more and more people to CTS. Now I think we have some time for some Q&A.